Night descended slowly over Shibuya, not with the clamor of neon often glorified in travel brochures, but with a quiet pause, like a long breath after an exhausting day. The streetlights turned on one by one, forming pale circles of light over the asphalt still damp from the afternoon rain. Beneath one of those lights, I stood waiting for someone, for something, while the sounds of the city thinned into the faint shuffle of rare footsteps and the distant hum of trains running far underground. Shibuya in its loneliness felt unfamiliar, yet at the same time intimate, as if the city were allowing me to borrow its solitude. I had moved to Tokyo just a year ago, carrying a small suitcase and hopes that were disproportionate to its size. By day, Shibuya was a vortex of people, an intersection that swallowed and spat out stories without ever pausing to say hello. But tonight, that crossing left behind only traces of light and my own shadow. I stared at my dead phone screen, deliberately choosing not to turn it on, as if closing a door so my mind would not return to the same room. In a country that honors punctuality, I learned that the most painful lateness is being left behind by yourself. In the distance, a convenience store still glowed brightly, a small lighthouse for those heading home late. I bought a canned coffee, warming it in my palms. The steam was thin, the scent bittersweet, reminding me of mornings I had let slip away. I sat on a metal bench by the roadside, listening to the city breathe. At times, the sound of someone's shoes passing by was so clear it felt like an interruption to my thoughts. At other times, the silence grew so thick that I was afraid to move. I came to Japan to work, of course an easy reason to accept. But behind it, there was another desire, far more fragile, to find distance from a wound that had not yet healed. In Shibuya, I learned to call distance space. Space to make mistakes, space to be silent, space to forgive myself. The streetlight above me reflected its glow onto a small puddle, breaking it into golden fragments. I thought that perhaps the human heart was the same, never truly dry, always holding reflections of the past. A middle-aged man passed by, carrying a folded umbrella, bowing politely when our eyes met. That small gesture felt like a quiet acknowledgement that we were both standing in places we did not entirely wish to explore. I returned the nod and hugged my coffee closer. In Japan, politeness often becomes a language of empathy. There are no questions that demand answers, no explanations that must be spoken. My thoughts drifted to long workdays, meetings that never truly ended, and emails that arrived like rain without regard for time. I learned to work hard, but I also learned exhaustion. I learned to meet deadlines, but I also learned to lose direction. Beneath the lonely streetlight of Shibuya, I realized that success is not always a destination reached, but the courage to pause for a moment without feeling guilty. The night wind slipped beneath my coat. I stood up, walked a few steps, then stopped again like a small exercise in, trusting that movement does not always mean running. At the corner of the street, a street musician was packing away his guitar. He gave me a brief smile as I passed, a smile that demanded nothing in return. His music had ended, but its resonance lingered. I thought about songs we never listened to until the end, and how often we consider that a failure, when perhaps it is simply a pause. I remembered home not as an address, but as a feeling. Home as a place where your name is spoken gently, where silence needs no explanation. In Tokyo, I had not yet found a home in that sense. But tonight, beneath the lonely streetlight, I felt something close to it. There was a thin sense of relief, like a small bandage on a larger wound. It did not heal, but it was enough to keep going. The last train had not yet arrived, but I was in no hurry. I chose to stand again beneath the same light, as if that glow were an anchor. I closed my eyes for a moment, breathing in air that smelled of rain and asphalt. I let my thoughts dissolve, one by one, like fallen leaves finding their own resting places. In the quiet of Shibuya, I learned that healing does not always come as an answer. Sometimes it comes simply as the courage to remain. When I opened my eyes, the city felt slightly different, not brighter, not busier, just more honest. I walked away with unhurried steps, carrying an empty coffee can and a heart that felt a little lighter. The streetlight behind me remained lit, faithful to its duty. And for the first time in a long while, I did not feel alone, even though there was no one by my side.